everyone, and welcome to our second UFE Pro interview series. So as we talked about earlier, we're going to be doing these as Facebook Lives. Then we'll be cutting it up, putting it onto YouTube as well, so watch for that. We're pretty pumped about that. And then we'll be doing this as a podcast series as well, okay? So our second guest is Angela Hauck. So you can see her little lower third there. She's a UFE dual pro, actually. So this has been a breakout year for her, 2018. Angela, how long have you been competing with us?
I think my first show was in maybe 2013 or 2014. So 4 or 5 years since I began my journey with you guys.
Amazing. So she's been competing with us for a while, and what's amazing is after having a baby, she decided to win that pro status, so we'll be talking to her a little bit more about that. She competed at UFE Revolution in May this year and got dual pro status in women's fitness and figure, so she'll be joining us at the UFE World Championships November 10th for the first time as a pro. She's also an entrepreneur, which is super cool. She's got the Transform Your Life podcast. She's got her YouTube channel. So we'll post those links in the comments. And she's, of course, got her business, Team Ange. Is there anything I missed out on? You're a busy woman, Angela. Did I miss out on anything?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm getting married in like a couple of weeks. So that's like in the middle of all this chaos, but I think you kind of wrapped me up in a nutshell.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that. So I'll be following you, I guess, by a couple of weeks after that, and then I'll be getting married too. So
nice.
Got a lot in common. So I kind of want to get you started. Like as you mentioned, you started competing with us in 2012 or 13, so a few years now. 5 or maybe even 6 years. You did well in the competitions, but interestingly enough, you had your little one, and then it was this year, your first competition back from having a baby, that you won UFE Pro status, which is like amazing to me. So what do you attribute that to? Was it you were just more determined to show you could do it after having a baby? Do you think the hormones worked in your favor? What do you think it was?
Well, I think after my last show, which would have been in 2014 was my last show before this one. It was the Elite UFE Championships. And I knew to be competitive, I needed an off season. I needed time away from the stage and was determined that I was going to do that. So after that show, I was like, okay, I'm for sure going to take a year off or maybe 2 years off. I'm going to put some size on. And as a natural competitor, it takes a long time to do that. So I already knew that I was going to commit the time to be away from the stage versus doing another show in a year. Now, the universe had another plan for me because a couple months after my show, I got pregnant. So the plan at that stage was like, okay, well, I guess have the baby, then we'll essentially lose the baby weight. And after that point, competing wasn't really in the forefront of my mind. What happened was had him, and then I lost like quite a bit of the baby weight, but wasn't stage lean by any means, and decided, okay, if the itch comes along, I'll do it again. So what ended up happening is I, through my business, was helping other clients to success and watching them get pro cards with the UFE as well as other organizations. And then I was like, okay, we got to do this. We're going to do it again. So it never really was like the competing was never the goal as a way to get in shape after I had my son. What ended up happening is I lost most of the baby weight and then decided, okay, I'm going to hire a coach that I really admire. So I joined Team Pro Physique, Paul Ravella, and was like, build me and then let's do this show. So I signed on with him for a year and we did a full entire build together. And then we went through the process of leaning out. So I think the way in which I got to the destination was the reason why I was so successful. The time away from the stage, and then not to say you can't use the stage as a way to lose the baby weight, but I think taking a long time after you have your baby versus like jumping right into a show, I think is the smartest decision. I think your metabolism is in a really good place. You don't have a lot of the skin issues that can happen from extreme weight loss incredibly quickly. And you also don't have the pelvic floor dysfunction that can happen if we try to go into high intensity exercise right after having children. So for any moms out there, I would say if that's the avenue that you want to go to and you have just had a baby, take the long road and take the smart road with it versus trying to get on stage right away. It'll always be there. It's intelligent to be away from the stage, build the muscle, and then come back. So I think, although there was a baby in the mix, I don't really think that contributed to the success. I think it was that the time away from the stage was why I was successful.
Nice. Awesome. Now, when we cut this into our YouTube and podcasts, I'm going to take this part of what I'm talking about out. But just for everyone watching, we're starting to get more and more viewers on. If for some reason we get cut off because we're newly using this Be Live technology, we will come back on and we will continue with Ange. So bear with us if for some reason we get cut off. But I'm hoping we get through our 30 minutes with no problems. All right. So let's kind of move onto your business as well, because this is pretty cool as well. You're a trainer, so you've got Team Ange, I guess that would be the name of your business, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And people can go to angelahauck.com, and basically you do transformation coaching. You've got a 28-day transformation challenge, and you've got a women's training camp at this point. So when did you start this? Because I don't remember you having this when you were competing with us before. Did you have it at that point?
Those two projects, no. But I would say when I first started competing, I don't even think I was in personal training, to be honest. I think I did my first couple of shows. I think I was still a bartender, to be honest. I think I was still working at Krabby Joe's or Eastside Mario's or something like that. And fitness was something that I was just passionate about, and then decided that I wanted to pursue the business down the line. So some people know my story, some people don't, but essentially what ended up happening is I grew up very overweight for the first 2 decades of my life, living off of like Pepsi, fried foods. My mom owned the small town diner. And then I ended up going through a pretty massive weight loss transformation of losing nearly 90 pounds. And then fitness became part of my like thing I was doing. But it wasn't until I left Ontario and backpacked and hitchhiked all through Western Europe that I really found myself and decided that I was going to pursue this business thing. So I went through the transformation and I had decided, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if there were other people who were sitting there struggling who could go through similar transformations and could really find a way to get their life back? Because for me, I remember those first 2 decades, like I was tired all the time. I didn't have the zest for life that I currently have. And I was really just going through the motions each day versus being an active participant in my life. So that's where the business, that's where it came from. And I also just was seeing both from like my family members and the people in my life that they just needed some tools that were going to help give their lives back. So it started with friends and family. And then now we have an international brand and my clients are all over the world, Bermuda, Hawaii, like England, Australia. We're really an international company where there's women all over the world who are not only stepping on stages, but really just finding a way to lose weight, transform their bodies, and really just get that life back that they really, really want through fitness and nutrition.
That's amazing. So I guess, that answers my question. What motivated you to start the business in the first place, which is amazing. We kind of get what you're doing with the business. And then, you're at a certain place right now. You're training women in Bermuda and Hawaii, like you're saying. What is your ultimate goal with the business? Like, if you could see Team Ange at the pinnacle of what you consider success, what does that look like for you?
I think of the avenues that we're pursuing right now, I really would love the training camp to not only be something that I'm doing here in Ontario, but the training camp to be something where I'm able to physically be in person with the people who watch my YouTube or listen to the podcast, be able to hug them, interact with them, and have like in-person connection where we are, I don't know, just able to connect on that deeper level and form friendships and bonds that I think a lot of people are missing. So I think with the online business, what can end up happening is like, yes, there's all these lives that we're touching right now, but more than ever, the people that I'm interacting with online, we want to get together. We want to have these training camps. We want to like come to a competition and be able to interact with one another. So I think I just envision the brand becoming something that, yes, we're touching a lot of lives around the world, but we're also having times throughout the year where we're coming together to actually connect with one another. I think that through both the avenue of the podcast and then the avenue of the YouTube, my ultimate goal is to help 1 million lives. And I talk about that a lot on my YouTube. I talk about it a lot on my podcast. And I think through all of the channels that I'm trying to touch people, that's really the ultimate goal, is that 1 million people can say that their lives were touched by the things or the things that the business is doing. So
1 million people, that's a lofty goal. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So you've got your business, and we've seen a few people actually use the exposure they get through UFE as a platform to help their business. In fact, when I started in the industry, I didn't really have an intention of using competitions as a platform, but then I found it was an incredible platform to promote my business, and I've seen competitors do it with the exposure they get from UFE. Do you find yourself kind of taking that same path? Do you see that as a benefit of competing with an organization like UFE?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I think like of all of the growth that we've had for the brand, I think my entire prep, I watched my following / the interactions with clients or like potential business opportunities that just completely exploded throughout my most recent prep and then beyond, because I was able to achieve pro status as well. So I think that the UFE nurtures that in the relationships and the competitors and the way that you guys interact with the people that are competing within your organization. But I also just believe that with like when you're going through a contest prep or putting your life so much out there, I do believe that that also welcomes like sponsorships that might be interested in you or magazines that might be interested in you. Having UFE Pro behind your name does do something in terms of status for both business and development as an athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen some amazing successes. So we're looking definitely forward to your success, because I think you're still up and coming. I think there's a lot more for you in the future, and you've even got that kind of ambition of touching 1 million people. We've seen people like Erica Willick really use this platform to build a business, Holly Weslowski. So it's really cool to see what you're doing, and I'm very confident in the success you're going to get through it. Now, so we've got, know, Ange is a mom. She's competing, of course, and you've got these, you know, your business and your ambitions around that. You've got a wedding you're planning for, so you're going to become Ange the wife as well. It sounds like you're super busy, so maybe give us a quick rundown of what a day in the life of Angela Hauck looks like.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Sean, if you would have asked me this, I don't even know when, let's say a year ago, the response to this question would have been so different. When I first became a mom, I'm still a hot mess, but when I first became a mom, I was a real hot mess. I was like trying to juggle it all, trying to be an awesome wife, to try to like not kill my child, make sure that he's nurtured, try to do the business. And I felt as though I was trying to juggle so many things all at once, and it was just like completely chaotic. And what I have come to find is that I've now established the like 4 or 5 big rocks of what I need to do throughout my day. I have a Google Calendar where everything is color coordinated, and if it's not on there, it's not happening. And everything for my day is very time blocked and routinal. And that's the only way that I can make it work. So yes, it means saying no to a lot of things. There's like little things that will pop up throughout the day that I could pursue, or like little things that may be tempting, like scrolling through social media or being tempted by all these things around. But I've created the framework that is essentially like, okay, you gotta go to bed and you have to be like out by like 9 at the very latest. If I'm in prep, there's lots of nights I'm in bed by 7, and then I need to get up before my child gets up so that I can get the things that are going to make me successful in all the other elements. So that means getting up anywhere from like 3:30 till 4:30 in the morning, doing my cardio, because right now I'm in contest prep. For people that follow me on Instagram, I do a little thing that's called Cardio Conversations, where I just kind of blabber about what's going on in my life and give you guys some insights about maybe some questions, fitness and nutrition related. So I do that. When I'm done that, I have my magic time. So essentially finish the cardio, and that magic time, my phone is in airplane mode. I don't respond to client emails. I don't do anything other than my number one priority for the day. So my number one priority could be something that's associated with the business. It might be reporting something that's podcast related. It might be that I have to put together like a meal plan for my membership program, but it's like that number one thing that needs to get done no matter what when the day's over. So I do that. And then my son has to get up, go to daycare. And so I got to get him dropped off. And then I don't eat my first meal till then. So I do a little bit of intermittent fasting, and I found a lot of success with that. Have my breakfast, go to the gym, and then I don't do anything additionally business-wise. So this is my stuff for my clients and my client calls. I've allocated that to happen between like 11 and 5. And within that time period, I don't allow myself to go on like social media, or don't allow myself to like be distracted by those things that like want to pop into my day until after 5, in which case that might be a time I'll be like, okay, I could scroll through social media, or I can like respond back to messages that might have been on social media. But I think creating that strong framework is the only way to not feel as though you're like falling or failing all the time. Because before I kind of had that framework and that structure in my day, it would be like I'd randomly have a client call at 9, and then I was training at random times throughout the day. And there just wasn't that like routine. And I think if you can create some really good boundaries in your life and create some really good structure, you can also have the freedom and fun and flexibility to finish your day at 5 and have your evening to do whatever you want, because you know you've been super productive throughout the day, versus when there's a lot of blurred lines. I think the challenge is like trying to switch hats too many times, and then like your son wants to play with you, but you're trying to respond to your client, and then you're feeling like conflicted. So the biggest thing is like, when I'm doing one thing, that hat is on and I'm all in with that hat and not worrying about any of the other hats. So often as women, we're like, I'm going to multitask or try to do all these little things at once. And I don't think that's as effective as being like business hats on, business hat off, or mommy hat on, mommy hat off. And I would say that's the biggest piece of advice I can give to anybody who feels as though they're struggling and trying to juggle multiple things. It's creating those times throughout the day where you're going to wear that hat, and then creating the structure and like the flow in the day that makes the most sense for you. So maybe you don't wake up at 3:30 or 4:30 in the morning. Maybe you wake up at 8 or 9. It doesn't matter. It's just how are you going to spend the hours that you are awake that allow you to create the life that you really desire.
Nice. So now we kind of get to the UFE World Championships. So I know Reagan here is saying excited to see you at the Worlds.
Nice.
Yep.
Thank you.
So it's going to be your first competition as a pro. And I just kind of want to get like, what are you feeling leading up to the show?
What am I feeling? I feel like my last prep for UFE Revolution was a very long journey. I started prepping, I want to say I probably started like prepping 30 to 40 weeks out.
Whoa.
But I was also coming off of a really long build and was sitting about 40 pounds above stage weight. And my coach just believes in dieting very slow. So we started really far out, like slow and steady, just kind of chipping away. So right now, yes, it's right around the corner, really. But I feel like it'll be like all in, all intensity, pretty much from when the wedding is over. Right now, I'm like slowly dieting, but I feel like once September 1st is, I don't want to say like out of the way, I feel like I'll have like, there won't be any other like major challenges. It'll be back into like concentrated prep time. So I think there's a lot of excitement to meet a lot of the other athletes. I foresee that prep might feel, I don't think it's going to be easy, but it's going to feel short in comparison with the last time around. Be dieting for, let's say, I'm kind of dieting right now, but I'm not in the same way that it will be after September 1st. So I'm excited to see what kind of changes have happened since my last show, because we went into off season pretty aggressively, knowing that the judges are wanting to see a little bit more fullness and a little bit more size for the show. I do envision that we're going to see a lot of strong competitors that are coming out. It is the World Championships. I know everybody's going to be bringing their A game. So my game plan from now until then is not only training my body and doing the dieting component, but the other strong part, I think, is of preparing for the competition is preparing your mind to be ready. And that was the game changer for me in this most recent prep that I had never done until this prep. So my prep for my May show, I visualized receiving that pro card every single day for that entire, not even the prep, but the build leading up to then the prep was always with knowing like, okay, this is the show I'm doing, and when I go and I step on stage, I'm becoming a UFE pro. And every single day that was like in the forefront of my mind. So heading into this show, it's the same sort of mental training. It's when I'm in the gym, I'm imagining my competitor at the machine right beside me, and she's pumping out one more, or she's putting a little bit more weight on the bar, or she's doing a little more than me. And that's how I continually push myself in all of my training sessions to be like, okay, I'm not at an amateur level show. If I'm going to show up at the pro show, I got to show up like a pro. So that's kind of where I'm going with it mentally and how I'm going to prepare slightly differently, still using visualization, but also this time being like, okay, no, these are the best in the world as natural competitors. There's no way I'm going into this show and not trying to do my absolute very best to compete against them.
Nice. I had some follow-up questions, and your description basically answered it all.
Nice.
I
Cool.
see Adam is saying Team Canada is coming in strong. So, of course, he's representing Canada. You're representing Canada. In fact, all three of those categories, between the two of you that you're representing, Canada did not take one of those championships. It was figure was our American champion.
Okay.
And we had women's fitness, an Australian champion, and bodybuilding, an Australian champion. So we'll see if Canada can steal some of those titles back.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Okay. And now, I guess, you know, the next question is, UFE, of course, is a natural organization, you know, and I pride myself on knowing that I'm providing a platform for natural competitors. I think it's super important. But I'd say in the last 5 to 6 years, I think the trend's been happening for about 10 years. There's always been drugs in the industry, but it seems to be becoming a little bit more in the you know day and age of Instagram. It seems to be a little bit more acceptable, which is, you know, I don't get it. But it's saturating our industry, and you know, men are guilty of it, but incredibly, you know, women are too, and even very young women. So I want to ask you, like, have you ever been tempted, like when you needed to lose 90 pounds? It's easy for somebody to say to you, "Hey, Ange, you know, you can take this stuff and you'll shred that weight in half the time, and you'll get way bigger muscles than if you were natural." So did that ever tempt you? And whether it did or not, you know, what's kind of kept you natural to this point? Because you're, what are you now, like later 20s, about 28?
What am I? I think I'm 29.
All right, close enough. Yeah, so, you know.
I'm going to be 30 in December. 30 in December, though, so.
Awesome. Yeah. So, you know, you've been in the game a little while. You've been, you know, into fitness for a while. So, you know, have you ever been tempted to take those shortcuts? And if, you know.
That's a very good question, Sean. So my second last show, so not this most recent one, my trainer that I used tried to get me to use steroids, and I said no. And he said, well, there's no way you're going to go into your next show and look that much better. And I said, watch me. And that was prior to this whole build thing. Then I was like, okay, I know I can do it. I know it's going to take me multiple years to do the same thing that somebody could do in a shorter period of time. But I think it's like any journey or any climb to anything, right? It's like you could either take the shortcut and not learn the lesson or build the strength along the way, or you could face those challenges. You could climb the mountain and have all that crap that's like you have to go through to make you who you need to be when you're at the top of the mountain. So for me, whether it was going to take me 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever that amount of time was, I was fine with having to wait. And whether I would have done well at this May show or not, I would have still kept fighting for it and still like doing another show, because I don't think it's, for me, I don't get any pride or satisfaction from shortcuts. I don't, it's even like building a business or anything in my life. It never brings me joy or satisfaction or a good feeling in my stomach to know that I took a shortcut. I'd rather take the long road. I'd rather take the hard road. So as I didn't feel tempted, but it definitely came up in conversation with that trainer. And then in choosing my trainer for my most recent show, it was something that I needed to pick a trainer that I knew made, like, who was very much a proponent of natural bodybuilding, somebody who was not going to try to lead me down that road, somebody that had the skills to make it happen naturally. So I would say too that if you're getting that vibe from your coach, or your coach is trying to tell you like, here's something that's going to make it happen quicker for you, or you're not going to be able to get really great results unless you take steroids, you need to find a new coach. You need to find somebody who's going to like lead you down the the road where it is in alignment with what you want. And that's what I love so much about the UFE is you guys provide a platform for anybody who is a natural competitor to go up against some of the best natural competitors in the entire world. You guys use a drug testing method that it can be trusted. And even at Revolution, I was tested while I was at that show as well, and was like, you know what, I'm glad I had the opportunity to experience that, to know that this is legit. This just isn't crap on their website. We are testing the athletes, and I know that my competitors are up against me in that same level. So I would say I'm not necessarily tempted, but I do think it is very readily available and very prevalent, unfortunately, in the industry.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I'm reading a book now called What Made Jack Welch, Jack Welch, and I recommend everybody reads that book. It has nothing to do with fitness. It has to do with being a good business leader. And the same lessons that hold true in business hold true in fitness. They hold true in all kinds of different areas of your life. They hold true in relationships. And the main message of the book is CEOs or top executives can do a lot of things to shortcut their success. So they can, fudge numbers, and they'll get bigger bonuses from, their shareholder group or, their board of directors. They can appoint their buddies, so they have a bunch of people around them to elevate them in the business. And eventually people pay for that. The message in that book was people pay for that. And we saw back in 2001, the Enron, the WorldCom, all these businesses that imploded, and people went to jail and they paid for that. And if you take that lesson over of shortcuts, you can take it to the fitness world as well. And you can take these steroids. You can, somebody who says, clenbuterol will help you burn fat, and T3 for your metabolism, and Anavar for your muscle, and testosterone. And I know, yes, you're going to get those results, and you're going to get them fast. At some point, it's going to catch up. It always does. Everything you've done, it does come to catch up at some point. It catches up in business. It catches up in your relationships. It catches up in the industry. So, I think what you were saying is spot on, and I kind of just wanted to reiterate that as well. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to bring up a comment here, which is funny. So, as you're talking about, not doing the shortcuts, we always have people that say, that's not possible. If you look good, if you're ripped, don't lie to me. You're taking stuff, you're doing whatever. And I even remember in high school, there was a year where I kind of, I just really came into my own. I started working out hard. I put on a lot of muscle, and there was a nickname for me called Juice. And the nickname was from my friends saying, "Oh, Sean, you must be using steroids or whatever." And, it became kind of a play name. But the mentality of people who haven't reached these heights is that it can't be done naturally. So I like to bring up a comment like Todd Balls here, who says bull to taking the natural route, because a lot of us do work hard. And one thing that I'll touch on with Ange, I believe you got tested at this show as well, right?
I did. And actually, leading up to the show, people were commenting on your page saying I wasn't natural, just kind of saying make sure you test her. And I'm like, test me? It's funny to me because I didn't think my body could ever look that way. I didn't. But at the same time, I also have a lot of confidence in knowing that I did it naturally. And yes, it was a lot of hard work to get to that place, but it is very much possible for so many of us to accomplish astronomically amazing things if we're willing to put in the hard work and be patient. That's the biggest part, is like, in this world, most people just aren't patient enough to see things through to achieve those things. Like, my weight loss journey is almost a decade ago, right? So like, this wasn't, getting to where I am now was not a 1-year process, was not a 2-year process. It's been almost a decade of exercising and lifting weights. So of course there's going to be some growth in muscle. Of course we're going to be able to like see that my body has changed into something that it like is very different than where it was a decade ago, but it certainly hasn't happened overnight. So some people, especially in the age of like Facebook and Instagram, maybe they only got to know me over the past year or over the past 6 months. So they're like, there's no way. Whereas some people who maybe did know me when I was 21 and have watched and followed my journey from my small town into where I am right now are like, holy smokes, like I remember year after year, this girl has just been like chipping away at getting better, not only with each show, but also with other elements of my life. So.
Yeah. And, I'd say those comments of people like our Todd Ball here, they do the industry a disservice because you reinforce the message that these results can't be achieved without drugs. So instead of you thinking you're doing the right thing and trying to call somebody out, when you're calling out the wrong people, what you're doing is you're reinforcing to the younger generation that, no, there's no way those people are getting muscle naturally, so that justifies me in taking my testosterone or Anabar or whatever other drug it is. They're not doing the natural industry a favor. So, we do have our bodybuilding champion, for example, Bill Cairns, and the guy looks like an absolute freak. Even in my mind, I'm like, holy smokes, like how does this guy do it naturally? And we've tested him show after show after show every year, and the guy's like, why is it only me that gets tested all the time? We want to show people that yes, this is absolutely possible naturally. No, you're not going to look like Dorian Yates in his heyday, but natural competitors can really push the envelope with their bodies, and we need to give natural competitors props. We need to give them credit, because we want to say to the younger generation that, hey, this can be done. Just be patient with yourself. You don't need to take shortcuts. Yes, you do need to be more patient, but you don't need to use, drugs to get to where you want to be. And I guess I'll just leave it. We went a little longer than I planned, but, we always have good conversation, Ange. So I'll just leave it with one more question, because this kind of leads into it. You've proven yourself a success in the industry, like, in terms of competition and in business. So what advice would you have for the up and comers, those 18 to 20-year-old males and females that are getting into the industry? They want to make their mark. They want to be a success in competition and business. What kind of tidbits of advice would you give them? And maybe in the interest of time, we'll limit it to 2 or 3.
Sure. I would say that if you're somebody who you're between 18 to 20, just trying to think about where it is that you want to go within the industry, the biggest piece of advice I can give you is that you don't know very much right now, and that's okay. But you need to look up to and lean on both mentors and people within the industry who are not only looking sexy and good on Instagram, they may be doing that too, but people who are really what you want to be and using them as the role models and examples. Because as a vulnerable, young person, it's very easy to see girls that look really good on Instagram that have 1 million followers, and you're following all of the things that they're doing. But the problem with that is that a lot of the times these people who have these either massive followings or are just looking really good are perhaps they're not able to I don't know how do I say this? They're not able to teach you what you need to know in terms of making an impact in the lives of others, right? And if your goal is impact, and if your goal is legacy and wanting to really transform other people's lives, I challenge you to follow the people that are doing that. Like, lean on those people, watch what they're doing, watch the type of messages that they're putting out, which is about like being patient, about being persistent, about having determination. Lean on those people as those being the guiding forces for you versus the people who just have massive followings. Because I think as a young person, we were like, oh, that person is amazing. And like, I would love to grow up and be like them and have 1 million followers on YouTube. Know that 1 million followers on YouTube doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make a lot of money, right? You could be pumping out all these videos and a lot of people are watching, but are they buying your products? Are you actually making a difference? So I think that's one thing that I really want young people to know is you need to find those role models that are actually making a difference, and the role models who maybe don't have as big of a following, but are really just working one person at a time to have good impact. I would also say, as a young competitor, get your first show out of the way just to do it. Then take a step back and come back in a few years. Not to say there's not genetic people who can just like look really great early 20s. But I know the best thing I did to compete as a natural figure competitor was take a step back, looking at who I was up against, and said, okay, if I just take a couple of years back and I train hard, I will actually be able to go up and have a competitive physique against these people versus trying to continually compete year after year, always dieting, always like show after show after show. Yes, competing is great, but doing multiple shows is not good for your health or good for your metabolism. So I would also say take a step away from the stage, build some muscle, eat a lot of food, and then come back and you'll be in a way better position metabolically, and then also have some better muscle mass. And I think that's it.
Indeed, it was messed up, but
Okay, we're back. That's okay.
here we are.
Okay, awesome.
So last time when I got frozen, I had to start a whole new broadcast. So at least we found a way to keep the same broadcast going if anything happens. So,
Perfect.
And I got frozen. Now, did you happen to get most of what you wanted to say out before I froze?
I believe so. At the end, I said, and that is it. And then I realized that you were frozen because you didn't say, I finished what I was saying, and then say anything. I was like, okay. But
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, in post-production, we'll fix this in YouTube. I want to thank everyone for being on here. So we saw some good comments. People still, people still making some good comments in there. So I appreciate all our live viewers. Those of you watching it in the future, I know Adam's interview got quite a few views after the fact. So looking forward to seeing how people enjoy this. Keep commenting on this even after we get off the live here. So you can follow Angela on her way. Yes, Jordan says we need to do more of these. We certainly will. You can watch Angela on her way to the UFE World Championships, November 10th in Toronto. You're doing kind of a vlog, right, on YouTube?
Yeah, I'm doing a weekly vlog, and it's essentially, I did all of my past prep. So if you want to catch up on what I did for my last prep, I did a weekly vlog for that. And then I did post-show, and then now we're getting into the beginning of what my prep is going to look like for the World Championships. So
amazing. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you. So we're doing lots of hype about this on Instagram, on Facebook as well. You can learn more about it, ufeshows.com. You can get tickets to the pros watching this. We want to see all of you bringing it. We're happy to have Ange representing Team Canada. We'll see if we can capture some of those medals back, because I know the US was the top dog last year. For the first time ever, Canada got dethroned. So we'll see if Canada can steal it back with amazing competitors like Ange. So thanks so much for your time, Ange, and good luck with your training. Good luck with the marriage, or the wedding, I should say. The wedding. Hopefully it goes fantastic, and we'll be seeing you soon.
all right, you betcha. Well, thanks for having me on, Sean. We'll catch you next time.
Okay, take care, Ange.